Hey everyone, and welcome. If you are getting ready for your PCI Level 1 or 2 certification exam, you are in exactly the right place. We've taken all the essential rules for concrete strength and mix design and distilled them into this focused guide to help you absolutely crush that test. Okay, so let's just dive right in. We're going to focus on answering one really important question. What are the absolute must-know strength rules for your PCI exam? By the time we're done here, I promise you are going to have them down cold. So first up, let's talk about the foundation of it all, the mix design. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't mix proportioning a level 3 thing? And yeah, you're totally right, it is. But trust me, understanding the why behind the mix is what really makes a great inspector. Think about it like this. Every single test you run, every observation you make out on the plant floor, it all goes back to the original purpose of that mix design. Knowing the principles gives you the context you need to make the right calls. It's really the basis for everything you're going to do.
Next, let's get into what I like to call the blueprint, qualifying the concrete mixture. Before a single production piece is ever cast, the mix design itself has to prove it can do the job. You know, this process is what establishes the master plan that guarantees performance later on.
And right here, you can see the two main ways to think about mix design. On one hand, you've got structural concrete. It's all about pure performance, strength, durability, that's it. But on the other hand, with architectural concrete, well, now you're juggling. Appearance, finish, color, texture, those are just as critical as its strength.
And then there's this special category that you absolutely have to know for the exam. It's called self-consolidating concrete, or SCC. And just like the name says, it's this incredibly advanced, super flowable mix. It's designed to completely fill up the forms and wrap itself around dense rebar all on its own. Pretty cool, right? No vibration necessary.
Now, for your exam, you need to remember its three essential traits when it's still in its plastic state. First, it has to have filling ability. It needs to flow into every nook and cranny. Second, it needs stability, which just means all the ingredients stay mixed together evenly. And third, it needs passing ability, so it can get through all that rebar without the rocks separating out. We call that segregation. So remember those three: filling, stability, and passing. All right, so now that we've got the blueprint down, let's get to the main event, verifying strength. See, concrete strength isn't just one number. It's more like a journey with these really critical milestones. And as an inspector, you're the one who's got to verify that each and every one of those milestones is met. This timeline really shows that whole journey. It all starts with release strength. That's the power the concrete needs to safely cut the tensioned pre-stressing strands, a process called detensioning. After that, you've got stripping and shipping strengths, which are all about handling the product. Then there's a 7-day check-in, and it all leads to the final goal, the specified 28-day design strength, 3,500 PSI. Burn this number into your brain. It is the typical minimum strength for release. It ensures the concrete has enough muscle to handle all that force from the pre-stressing strands. I can almost guarantee you'll see this on the exam. And what about that 7-day strength? Well, a really good rule of thumb is that it should be sitting at about 70% of the final 28-day strength. Think of it as your early warning system, letting you know if you're on the right track. Okay, so we've got these strength milestones, but how do we actually prove that they've been met? You know, it's not enough for just one test to pass. Quality control depends on a statistical verdict, and you need to know the rules of the game, inside and out. This whole system, it really hinges on the results you get from breaking compression cylinders. These tests give us the hard data. Your job is to take that data and apply the industry standard rules for acceptance. And let me be clear, these are not suggestions, they are absolute. 500 PSI, this is your first absolute limit. For any concrete that's specified at 5,000 PSI or less, no single test result can be more than 500 PSI below that target number. That's the floor. You can't go below it. This table right here, this basically summarizes the two big acceptance rules you have to memorize.
Rule 1, the average of any 3 consecutive tests has to meet or beat the spec. And Rule 2, no single test can fall too far below that spec, either by more than 500 psi or for higher strength mixes by more than 10%. You've got to know this table.
Okay, whew, we have covered a lot of ground. So let's lock it all in with a super quick, rapid-fire review of the most important points. Think of this as your final checklist before you walk into that exam room.
First up, the milestones. Release strength is for detensioning. Remember that 3,500 psi minimum. Stripping strength is for handling. 7-day strength, that's your 70% progress report. And 28-day strength, that's the final design goal.
Next, SCC. It's that super flowable concrete, and it must have those 3 key abilities: filling, stability, and passing. Simple as that.
And finally, the verdict, how we judge the results. The average of 3 tests has to meet the spec, and no single test can fail that 500 psi or 10% rule. Got it?
So there you have it, the core principles of strength and mix design you need for your PCI certification. We've gone through the rules, we've gone through the numbers. So the final question is really for you. Now that you know the spec, how are you going to apply that knowledge to make sure it's met out on the floor every single day? Because that right there is where a certified inspector truly earns their stripes. Good luck on the test.